going on, everyone? So, a lot of twists and turns are expected for this upcoming Scream 7. And I'm all for it, right? And did a whole video on how, like, hey, all these actors and actresses keep talking about how, like, you know, Ghostface is darker, more brutal, more intense. Like, this is going to be the scariest Ghostface we've ever had. And you have all these characters that are like, man, my jaw dropped, right? With all the just the stuff and the way that this plays out, right? When I read the script and, you know, and it's hyping you up. It's getting you excited. And that's what you want, right? And I am excited and looking forward to just kind of the mystery surrounding this, right? This Scream film, there's so much potential, so many possibilities. There's so many directions in which that they can just lead us on. And it could be a very fun roller coaster ride. It could be a very fun opportunity and a very fun viewing in the theater if done proper, if it's flushed out, if it's properly put together, right? But you always run the risk when you have a film that's going to have too many twists and turns of it being just that, too many twists and turns. And you go from like a smooth, you know, kind of roller coaster where you're just like, yeah, like this is great, cool, to like, you know, like, okay, I need to get off this ride, please. Like, you know, it's just, and you're just like being jolted all over the place, right? There's nothing wrong with like, hey, we're going over here. Okay, now we're going over here. Okay, now we're going over here, right? Like, think of, for example, Scream 6. You know, I've been very critical of Scream 5 and 6, but like Scream 6, the opening scene in particular, right? Like, you had Greg take out Samara Weaving's character, boom, takes her out, the professor, she ends up dying, and then you have kind of the reveal. It marinates a minute. You get to take that in, process that. Oh, wow, we just got a Ghostface reveal. Wow, he just took out Samara Weaving, right? Like, oh, it's the guy from Spider-Man, right? Like, you know, there's just a lot to process, but they did a good job of letting you kind of frame that for a moment, intake it, and then move on. He goes, sees Tara, oh yeah, maybe the party thing, whatever, and then ends up going home, right, trying to find Jason, and then boom, he gets taken out by Ghostface. You know, fast forward, right? There's a little more in between, but it was a flushed out scene, right? You had moments where you got to take it in, you got to marinate, it got to seep in, you got to comprehend and understand it, right? Well, there's also a version of that, not reality, but I'm talking about, like, you know, where they could mess it up, where, you know, he takes out Samara Weaving, Ghostface reveal, he ends up back at the apartment. You're like, whoa, okay. And then, you know, boom, Ghostface pops out, takes him out. And then, you know, we're like, basically what took whatever it was, 8 minutes, right? Instead of that 8-minute sequence, you could have cut that into 3 or 4 and it might have not have been processed as well, right? So you run the risk of, when you're having all these twists and turns and all these things, and we're over here, and now we're over here, and now we're over here, and now we're over here, right? Like, your audience isn't able to intake that, process that in a way, especially key points, key moments, key elements, right? Scream 3, for example. However you feel about Scream 3, one of the issues is it didn't do a good job of setting up and establishing Roman as Ghostface. Obviously, you want that to be a mystery and a reveal, but it didn't lay the breadcrumbs to have you understand the story when the reveal happened, right? There was no previous setup and establishment of Sydney having a brother, right? And, you know, Roman was just kind of there for a moment and then wasn't, right? Like, and you didn't get this cohesive story building up to where we're trying to put together a puzzle, right? And taking, you know, we get little pieces here and there, and boom, now we got our puzzle layout. You got all these pieces, but there's still pieces are missing, right? Well, then that's where you get to the end. You get the Ghostface reveal, and then Ghostface kind of fills in the rest of your puzzle, right? Or a bingo card, whatever, right? Like, you're trying to get the bingo. And it's like, okay, you got that number, you got that number, okay, you got that, okay, cool. I just need like 2 more numbers and it's bingo, right? And then that's where Ghostface comes on and is like, boom, here we are. Here's what happened, blah, blah. But instead, you saw Roman had to spend 10 minutes explaining everything. I'm your brother, and I'm this, and I'm that. And it's like, so now, you know, think bingo analogy is probably better, right? Like, think of bingo, right? If those numbers are coming out, you know, B26, I7. But if it's like B26, I7, I12, I3, I5, you're like, oh, okay, and hang on a second. Like, I'm trying to process the numbers, right? There needs to be a certain type of pace to the numbers that are being revealed, so that way you can process them, analyze them, mark them off on your bingo card. Well, it's very similar, right? When you're having this whodunit mystery, you want the pieces, you want the know-how, so that way when you get to where you're able to process and go bingo, right? Like boom, everything clicks, everything's good, right? So I hope that whatever the Scream movie does with the twisters, I hope that it's properly paced. I hope it's properly flushed out. You don't want to go from here to here or here to here, right? Like you want kills, you want things to marinate. I'm not saying, you kill somebody and you got to like have the camera over them for, 3 minutes while they're just like laying there and you're like, okay, that guy's clearly dead, right? Like, no, I'm not saying anything like that, but you don't want to, your jump cuts and where you're going in certain particularly key moments, right? Like Dewey, for example, right? Scream 5, when Dewey dies, if you go straight from Dewey dying to, Sydney showing up, right? Like, and you didn't even get time to process it. But what happened, right? You had that moment, get the zoom in, Dewey there, we're like all stunned, right? We're trying to process that. Then it jumps over to Gail's reaction. Everything's starting to settle in. You're starting to your heart's starting to race and you're starting to realize the gravity of what just happened, right? And then boom, you get her scream. And then her and Sam are talking, and then you get the Sydney thing. You get, the phone call. I would have liked some type of, one of the things that I think that they missed was a reaction from Sydney, right? I understand that she's not going to break down hysterically. It's just not who Sydney is, but it would have been nice to even just and then see the devastation on her face, even if she's not crying or anything, right? Just that portrayal. But I digress. Point is, right? You want to be able to process things. So you can get to a point where things get too convoluted. You have a bunch of characters. You need to flush out character development. You're always going to have a character or two that's just there just to be Ghostface fodder, right? You're always going to have a character or two that are there that, whether it's the opening scene or 8 minutes into the film that are only going to be there for 30 seconds and then they're going to die, right? Like I'm talking about at least the main characters that you want to flush out, connect to an audience, right? You need character development needs to be a big thing. There's a lot that they need to kind of work on and process. And I'm hopeful that ends up happening. I'm hopeful that that's something that they're able to work out in this upcoming Scream movie. I'm all for the roller coaster ride, right? Let's keep it entertaining, right? We're in the 7th installment. You got to kind of, I want to keep the foundation intact, but if you want to kind of build different houses on the foundation, that's fine, right? Like, just don't lose what Scream inherently is. But at some point, you are going to have a little bit of a roller coaster ride. At some point, you are going to have a little bit of fun here. So I'm all for that. Have a little fun. Let's explore a couple of things. Let's go over here. Now let's go over here. Let's go over here. But don't jolt me that way to where now I'm getting whiplash, right? Like, keep it where it's in frame. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. I pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? And if you what are your thoughts? You agree with me? Disagree with me? Kind of mixed in the middle? However you feel either way, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.